後邊嘅電子嘅係啦。
OK， 好，望下後面。
後面仲有電子傳媒會。
好 ，OK 未？好，唔該晒。
唔好意思，啱啱有位記者啱啱到。
OK，
好，
影多幅係嘛？好，
我影多張啊。好，再望下前面。
冇問題。我望左邊。好，
唔該晒，
唔該晒，
唔該晒。
好，歡迎大家嚟到。
Welcome to the press conference by the joint press conference by the Finance Committee and its two subcommittees. The chairman of the Finance Committee, Mr. Ronick Chan, together with Mrs. Regina Yip, chair of the Establishment Subcommittee, and Dr. Loy Kwok of the Public Works Subcommittee, to review the work of the committees for this session. So first, Mr. Ronick Chan. Friends of the media, my apology that we've rescheduled the press conference because last Monday, it was just after the district council election. Perhaps your interest may not be on the finance committee's work, so that's why we have rescheduled it to today. Now, this is the first press conference jointly held by the Finance Committee with the two subcommittees for you to gain a complete picture of our work. In fact, among the funding proposals considered by the FC in this session, 29% and 47% respectively are Establishment and Public Works Council proposals. You can see that the two subcommittees play a significant role in assisting FC in discharging its duties on vetting and approving finance proposals. So the three committees are interlinked with each other as they discharge their respective functions. I will first speak, and then the chairman of the two subcommittees will also report on their work later. Now, in this term, we have worked smoothly. Members continue to consider all government funding proposals with rigor, rationality, and pragmatism. As at the 8th of December 2023, 66 items were approved, and all government-submitted proposals have been considered. The total amount involved is $143 billion. There are approved 19 establishment and 31 public works funding proposals. And there are also 16 non-public works proposals involving $20.4 billion. That includes the $10 billion research, academic, and industry sectors 1+ scheme, RACE +1, the dedicated 100% loan guarantee scheme for cross-boundary passenger transport trade amounting to $6.8 billion, and also the dedicated 100% loan guarantee scheme for battery electric taxis. Now, that we held 28 meetings totaling 65 hours. On average, each item took about an hour and 21 minutes to consider, but then there were some items that required longer time, such as public housing involving $14.9 billion and the RACE +1 involving $10 billion. We spent 4.5 hours and 2 hours respectively on these proposals. And we also had special meetings during summer to approve $7 million of injection to the Disaster Relief Fund. And then in mid-April this year, we held 21 sessions totaling 32 hours of special meeting to consider the 2023 to 24 estimates. 88 members asked a total of 3,500 written questions. And during the special meetings, members also raised questions on reference expenditure items, and they raised their concerns and comments. Now, this year, the administration listened to our views. They tried to arrange a suitable number of items that require discussion in the same meeting. So there won't be too many discussion items in one meeting, and that will help us to work more smoothly. Now, we are now in the post-COVID recovery of our economy, so we play the role of gatekeeper in considering funding proposals. Members consider funding proposals from multiple angles with eagle eye. That includes the commitment amounts, recurrent expenditure, the implementation timetable, cost effectiveness, KPIs, assessment, and monitoring mechanism, risk management, whether the proposals will result in duplication of the use of resources, and we want to make sure that resources are put to good use to meet the relative policy objective. This is to make sure that public funds are spent for promoting promoting the development of Hong Kong. And in recent years, there were many funding proposals on establishing or renewing IT system of the government. Members pay particular attention to how such systems may enhance the efficiency of public services and whether it will achieve savings. Now, members have considered in detail the relevant subsidy and loan schemes for relevant sectors and the organizations. They consider the financial feasibility and also whether the schemes could actually meet the needs of the sector concerned. Now, we considered 50 establishment and public works proposals. There was further discussion for 6 items. 5 items were on the recommendation of the 2 subcommittees. That's why we had further discussion. And then this year, we've also put to use the mechanism for members to overturn recommendations of subcommittees for further discussion of items. There were 2 applications. One was rejected, the other was supported. That shows that if members see the need for further discussion, they could ask to do so through the mechanism. Now, as to whether there is need to adjust the mechanism, I have talked to different parties and groups through various channels. The mainstream view is that we should observe the work of the mechanism further before we review it. And then there are often views that on establishment and public works proposals, the Finance Committee often did not conduct further discussion, and items were put to a vote. Well, I hope members of the public will realize that usually government proposals are first considered by panels on policy matters, and then the matters would be considered carefully by the establishment and the public works subcommittees. And then members may ask for supplementary information. For example, this session, the 2 subcommittees asked for 50 different supplementary documents, and then the relevant officials would also meet with members who've expressed concerns to explain the policy further, the matter further to them. So members may have therefore have enough information to go by in making a decision. That's why some of the establishment and public works proposals need not be discussed further at the Finance Committee. I note that there are views that some FC members did not speak during meetings. I'd like to make 4 points here. First, some of the items were already discussed by the relevant subcommittees, and for members who are both in subcommittees and finance committees may choose not to repeat their questions, or maybe an item has been fully discussed, so they won't speak just for the sake of speaking. And also for members with group or party affiliation, they may be assigned different roles at the 2 subcommittees and the Finance Committee, and also members in the same party may cover for each other at different meetings so that they could work more efficiently and cover a comprehensive scope of issues. And thirdly, if necessary, members may put forward their views to the administration before FC meetings through various channels. And then on major funding proposals, the administration may first talk to members before meetings to try to narrow the differences and improve upon the details of the proposal. And finally, some members may choose not to take part in the discussion or vote on the item because this is to avoid a conflict of interest. Now, the public have also expressed concern about claiming divisions. Now, I must explain that every member has the right to claim a division. It is their right, but then they may choose whether to exercise this right for various considerations. Maybe they have a special position they want to express, so they may want to claim a division, so it's put on record. Or maybe they will see whether claiming a division may affect the work arrangement of other members who are not present. I'm glad to see that there is much interest in the work of the Finance Committee by the public. So perhaps through this press conference, I have explained in greater detail and in more concrete terms about our work. I hope then you will understand better how the Finance Committee and the 2 subcommittees work together to make sure we work with great efficiency. Now I invite the 2 subcommittee chairmen to report their work. First, Mrs. Regina Ip. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman of the Finance Committee, for giving us this opportunity to report to you on the work of the Establishment Subcommittee, ESC. In this session, we considered and approved 19 establishment proposals. All these proposals were also approved by the Finance Committee. Now, for post-creation proposals, that's to meet the policy initiatives of the chief executive. For example, promoting industrial and science and technological development, Chinese medicine development, setting up the civil service college, strengthening regulation of residential care homes, and so on. So we have approved the creation of 11 permanent posts, including 4 posts for the Civil Service College. We've also approved the creation of 16 time-limited supernumerary posts and 2 time-limited non-civil service posts. They have all to do with competing for enterprises and talents. We've also retained or recreated 9 time-limited supernumerary posts. For example, 3 of such posts are for continuing the monitoring and support for the West Kowloon Cultural District project. We held 14 meetings totaling about 29 hours. 4 of the meetings were special meetings held before the summer break. On average, we spent about 1.5 hours on each item. Members were active in asking questions. They asked about the rationale of creating a post and whether the post should be permanent or supernumerary and whether the rank is appropriate. And then they also considered the division of labor and KPI and so on. So members asked questions on all these details. Now, I've checked the record of compared to 2022. The number of meetings in 2023 was higher and with a longer duration in total in 23 compared to 2022. And then also we spent more time on each item in 2023 than in 2022. So you see that members worked very hard to perform the duties. In the coming year, I believe the subcommittee will continue to work diligently and carefully in considering government's proposals. Thank you. They will also be asking them questions on details. Thank you.
盧偉國議員。
Now, Dr. Lo Wai-kwok, the chairman of the Public Works Subcommittee, will speak. Thank you, Chairman of the Finance Committee. Friends of the media, I'm pleased to be able to share with you the work of the Public Works Subcommittee, or PWSC, over the past year. Infrastructure is a bread and butter issue that includes building public housing, developing a new metropolis, rebuilding hospitals, improving transport networks, and making our city a better place, etc. The government is committed to investing in infrastructure to lay a solid foundation for socio-economic development. This will boost Hong Kong's long-term competitiveness and improve people's quality of life. Last financial year, that is 2022 to 23, the government's actual expenditure in infrastructure reached $87.6 billion. During this legislative session, the PWSC scrutinized 35 funding proposals on public works involving $132.8 billion in total funding. 31 such proposals have been approved by the Finance Committee, involving $122.6 billion. This means there are items passed by the PWSC but have yet to be approved by the FC. I believe they will reach the FC soon. Friends of the media can look up the PWSC's webpage for a list of such proposals. Among the proposals passed by the PWSC, those involving the largest amount of funding had to do with healthcare. There were 3 such proposals involving about $51.3 billion, mainly about redeveloping or expanding hospitals and a teaching research complex. Proposals involving the second largest amount of funding had to do with land and housing. There were 9 such proposals involving about $27.1 billion. This shows the government's commitment to improving healthcare and resolve to boost land and housing supply. During this legislative session, the PWSC held 17 meetings, with meeting hours totaling 32 hours. That's 32 hours in total. This includes 5 extra meetings involving 7 hours or so held on the government's request to deal with urgent funding proposals sooner. Each proposal took an average of 54 minutes to scrutinize, roughly an hour. On some items that attracted public attention, such as light public housing, the PWSC spent over 2 hours on an in-depth discussion. Public works often involve huge expenditure. This means hundreds of millions of dollars is at stake for every decision. That makes the PWFC's work so important. For this reason, the PWSC exercised great care in examining funding proposals. Members paid close attention to project costs. They would compare the costs of similar projects in the past in assessing whether the cost of a project made sense. Apart from asking the government for detailed explanations of high project costs, some members also brought into play their engineering background by offering professional advice on lowering costs. In Hong Kong, land is at a premium, especially for urban land. That's why members care deeply about making the most of the land in each project. This meant maxing out the plot ratio. During deliberations, the PWSC looked at whether a project could give effect to the policy objective concerned. For example, when a project involved the single-site, multiple-use model, members considered whether the government had provided the public amenities in demand as far as possible. For a proposal about parking spaces, members looked at whether the works included charging facilities to support the popularization of electric vehicles. On construction timeframes, members always urged the government to build faster so that the public could enjoy the results sooner. In short, the PWSC scrutinized every funding proposal with thoroughness and rigor. I have seen PWSC members actively taking part in discussions in a pragmatic way during meetings, offering mostly practical comments and ideas that reflected people's concerns and expectations. As the chairman, I had to ensure efficiency and focus on the works during deliberations. That's why I reminded members from time to time to follow up broader policy matters at relevant panel meetings instead. Meanwhile, I also raised general questions during discussions, such as whether some long-standing planning standards were out of date, and urged the government to actively review the matters and devise improvement plans. Members of the PWSC also visited construction sites to learn about the progress of some large and representative works projects. During this legislative session, members visited the Shatin sewage treatment works in a cavern at Nui Po Shan, the Kai-Tak Sports Park, and I-Park 1 on an artificial island in the sea off Shek Kwu Chau. Members visited those sites to learn about the progress and challenges of the works. Before the scrutiny started on the funding proposal for the first batch of light public housing, members had also visited a mock-up unit in Kai-Tak at the government's invitation to get a better sense of the project before looking at the proposal. This ensured members could make a decision in the best interest of the community. That's what I wish to share with you on the PWSC's work in this legislative session. Last but not least, I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Tony Tse, the Deputy Chairman, who was with us at this meeting, for his assistance. I now give the floor to the Chairman of the FC. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Low Kwok. Allow me now to conclude our presentation. Since the last session, the Finance Committee and the two subcommittees were able to perform their duties properly in scrutinizing government's funding proposal. The deliberations were vigorous, prudent, and efficient, and we were able to approve fundings in a timely manner so the government could proceed with the various policy initiatives that would benefit the public or stimulate economic development. And as a spokespersons of the public, members were proactive in conveying public concerns and expectations. So they also put forward various suggestions to make sure that the policies are useful and effective, and they will benefit the public, and with this to make sure also public funds are put to good use. Now we need to fight for economic development now, and so we need both manpower and financial resources to that end. And so the Finance Committee and two subcommittees will continue to perform their duties in vigorously considering every funding proposal to make sure and help the government maintain its financial sustainability and deal with unknown challenges in the future. Taking this opportunity, I'd like to thank Mr. Frankie Yek, the Deputy Chairman, for his advice and for helping to chair some of the meetings. I must also thank Mrs. Regina Ip and Dr. Lloyd Kwok for leading the work of the two subcommittees. The two subcommittees hold as many meetings as we do. Finally, I must also thank the legal advisor, the clerk, and other secretariat colleagues for their professional support to the FC and the two subcommittees. Thank you. Now, let's see if you have any questions.
We now open the floor for questions. If you wish to put questions, please first tell us your media outlet. Thank you. I'm from the Hong Kong Economic Times. A question for Mr. Ronald Chen. Last year, you said some officials did better than others. How would you rate the performance of the officials this year? We reported on the efficiency of the FC this year. We've seen notable improvements in how officials did. They were on the point as they responded. For certain officials, there's room for improvement. Let's take last week. Mr. Eric Yim mentioned municipal solid waste charging. Mr. Yim proposed that businesses could buy the government's solid waste charging bags. In that case, people receiving a gift wouldn't have to buy the bag. The government gave us a detailed response. So I asked the official, Mr. Eric Yim asked about the bag. The official said they wouldn't get involved. I said it's okay to encourage the businesses to do this. From this example, you can see that some officials didn't join FC meetings often. With more experience, they could give us better responses. Thank you. Questions from other journalists? I'm from Oriental Daily. At Finance Committee meetings, members complained about short papers, not information. Do you think the government is being sloppy because it thinks you will pass the papers quickly with the improved patriots administering Hong Kong? Dr. Lloyd Kwok also said that some members asked repetitive questions. Do you think this has to do with Mr. Martin Liao asking members to speak more often so that members speak more often at the expense of quality? I take the first question. The second question, I will ask Dr. Low to give an answer. We cannot generalize about the papers. For some funding proposals, the government provided detailed papers. Some members actually found the detail to be excessive. Each policy bureau has its own considerations when it comes to papers. Say, with welfare benefits, the rate is adjusted based on the inflation rate. So in those cases, the paper may be a few pages. But then for light public housing, We spent more than 4 hours on discussing the item at the FC. At the panel meeting, another 4 hours was spent on discussion. The government gave us detailed papers, extensive information. Now, whether the members are happy with the information, that's another question. Members can ask the government for supplementary information on top of the papers. At the FC and at the subcommittee levels, there were 50 supplementary papers from the government. Whenever members asked for supplementary information, the government responded favorably. So I cannot generalize about the papers. I cannot say the government is being sloppy. I hope each policy bureau can provide detailed papers. The more detailed, the better, instead of having members ask for detailed information at the meeting. As for the next meeting, I will invite Dr. Low to give an answer. On the papers, when we look at the papers for the PWSC, those are detailed papers. But in some ways, the government could have given more details. For example, the project cost. We're not asking for many figures. We want to find out about the portion and why a certain portion of a project costs more. The official could have anticipated questions about those portions, and they could have given us more details. And for the works plans, the officials may have seen concerns coming on certain parts of the plan, so they could have given us more details. I'm not saying the government is being sloppy. I'm saying that with better preparation, the government can give us more detailed papers so that they can provide details without being asked to do so by us. So this is where officials can do better. On questions, at the PWSC meetings, members actively took part in asking questions. When members asked for details, I let members ask the questions. There's a chance that sometimes the questions tended to be repetitive. Members are busy. In a 2-hour meeting at the PWSC, not every member can be at the meeting for the whole duration. So as a chairman, I would remind members that certain questions were already answered, so the official could focus on answering the other part. So I don't think those are senseless questions. At PWSC meetings, members asked practical questions. But as the chairman, I have to keep an eye on the questions asked to ensure an efficient and in-depth discussion. Other questions? Anything to add from the FC chairman or the chairpersons from the subcommittees? This year, the government submitted many establishment proposals, more than 2022. But back in 2022, the funding involved was larger because last year we had the government restructuring. The deputy secretaries of departments were created. In the year to come, I believe there may be fewer establishment proposals given our fiscal deficit, and the government proposed a 1% cut to departmental expenses. Now, for the new term of government, the posts to be created have been created. So I expect fewer establishment proposals next year. Other questions? If not, we will end here. Thank you. Thank you.
仲有時間先好多議員，3點半。
根本冇乜去識字，我哋已經好識咗。